Hi, in this video we're going through the whole process of setting up your PC for using ExpressXR to develop your own VR experience. This video is in addition to the Getting Started page where you can find textual description of what you need to do and much more other things like the whole wiki and tutorial pages, but also the documentation of the code. First, we need to install Unity. So what you need to do is go to unity.com/download and download the Unity Hub. You'll find all links down in the video description as well as on the ExpressXR wiki page. After installing, we can then go to installs and install an editor. And basically you can just install the latest LTS version, which should be somewhere in the range of 2021.3 and then something else. It should be at least 0.18.1f. So we can go here to install. And then what is important, we need to install Android build support and OpenJDK and Android SDK and NDK tools, especially if you have an Oculus Quest, as they require Android build support. We can select those and then hit continue to install the editor. When that is done, we need to download a few other things. That is the .NET framework, which is for one, the .NET SDK x64, as you probably will have a Windows 64-bit system. And we need the version 7.0. Go to download and download that. And we need the .NET framework, which is basically .NET framework 4.8 or whatever the recommended version currently is. We're going to download and install it by clicking here on the link and then going to the developer pack, and that will start to download. And once that is done, we can also use both installers to install them. What is really important, restart your PC, as that is required for the changes to take place. So see you in a second. Once you restarted your PC, .NET should be installed, and we can go ahead on setting up your preferred code editor. Even though ExpressXR allows for minimal coding, it is still advised to install some kind of code editor, in our case Visual Studio Code, just to have the option to change anything if that is required. You can download the installer for Windows or whatever system you are using. And once the download is finished, you can install Visual Studio Code. To set up Visual Studio Code for developing in Unity, we need to go to File and go to Preference and then Settings. And in the search bar, search for OmniSharp.use, and then we will see OmniSharp use modern net, and make sure that is disabled. You can then close the Settings tab and go to the left to the Extensions tab, which is the 4 squares on the left side panel. And then we need to install C#, which is the language support for Unity's programming language. And then we can install some useful add-ons that'll help speed up programming with Unity, which is Unity Tools from Evan Zarles, Unity Code Snippets from Kleber Silva, and Unity Snippets from Celtic Studios. We then can finally install GitHub Desktop, which is also optional, but recommended, especially when working with other people, so that everybody can have the same code base. And it'll look something like that. We can go back to ExpressXR and either download the code as zip file, which is an option if you don't want to use Git or want to set up the whole repository on your own. But to streamline the process, we can click the green button, use this template, and create a new repository, which will then allow us to enter a repository name and set it to private and create a repository from this template. Once GitHub has finished loading, you can see we have basically a copy of the ExpressXR repository, which we can now download to our PC if we want to use GitHub. And to do so, we can go to File and then Clone Repository and enter our repository's name, in this case my XR app. Choose a local path where we want to store the data, and then finally hit clone. That will download everything to your PC, which will also take a while. When that is done, we can go ahead and fetch origin just to check if we have everything up to date. And then we can go to Visual Studio Code and go to File and Open Folder and select our My XR app folder and then hit Open Folder or Select Folder. Doing so is really important as that is required for IntelliSense to work, which is basically the code completion feature of Visual Studio Code. The last thing that is needed to be installed is the software for your VR headset. And usually you either have PC-bound headset, which uses Steam VR, which can be downloaded via Steam, or you are using a MetaQuest or an Android device. In that case, you'll need the MetaQuest Developer HUD, which can be downloaded from developer.oculus.com, and you can download the installer from here. And then just continue with connecting the headset and enabling the developer options for the Oculus to work. With either software installed for your headset, we can now get into Unity, where we can select our new project by clicking Open, Add Project from Disk, and then again selecting the folder of your project, in this case My XR, and then clicking Add Project. Double-clicking the project will then open the editor, which will load for a little while, but don't worry, that is normal. After a few minutes, you'll either see the Unity editor or you'll get an error that you are missing some packages or your project has some errors. In this case, ignore the errors and open the editor anyway. That is because you are missing some packages, which you then have to install manually by going to Window, then in the middle to Package Manager. And here in the top left, you can select Packages, Unity Registry, and you'll find a list of required packages in here with the required versions. Make sure to download all of those if those are missing. After that, the errors should go away. Now you're ready for creating your app using ExpressXR. You can use your headset by either starting SteamVR and connecting all your devices, or by connecting the Oculus with an USB-C cable to your PC and then connecting it through the MetaQuest Developer HUD. Just to be on the safe side, let's also go to the project settings under Edit and then Project Settings. Then scroll down on the left side to XR Plugin Management on the bottom, and just make sure that both in the PC tab OpenXR is checked, but also in the Android tab, and that those are the only options enabled. If you're using an Oculus device, we also have to go to OpenXR and then go to the Android tab in there and enable the MetaQuest support. Clicking this will make a red exclamation mark appear. Let's click on that, and this will open another window where it says that only the Oculus Touch Interaction Profiler is supported right now. That is not really important for us, so we can just fix all and close the window, and we are ready to try out ExpressXR. To do that, let's open one of XR sample scenes, which can be found under Assets, ExpressXR, Scenes, and then let's try out a general export scene. Opening it will look something like that. But to try it out, let's hop into the VR. Alright, here we are in the VR, and straight ahead we can see we have the option for trying out the configuration of the ExPresS rig. I won't go into detail in this video, but we'll have another video linked at the top right now. In this menu, we can configure things like if we want to enable teleportation or how our controllers will be displayed. For example, right now we have an animated hand, but we can also provide the controller which is currently used. As you can see, I'm using a Valve index, and so we'll have that enabled. Now let's head to the exhibition area. Here we can see that we can display objects, but also images. And if we get a little bit closer and press it, then we can see that we can display additional information to those images. We also have a video on that topic linked in the description. Let's continue our exploration, going into the experiment or button quiz area, where we will find some button quizzes that come pre-configured with ExPresS, and we can get a little bit closer. For example, here, start the quiz, and then in this case a video will be played and we can see and select some answers. To not spoil any answers, let's head into the next area, which will be the interaction area, where we can try out sockets, which can hold objects in different ways. For example, a socket where we can put anything in the socket, a socket that checks for tags, next a socket that only accepts one object, and last but not least, which is also available on the exhibition displays, a socket that will retrieve objects after a short while. So if we let go of that, it will go back to its socket after a short time. As you might have seen, that interaction didn't look pretty, as the glow stick kind of clipped through our hands. So we also have the option for gripping objects on the outside, which isn't a feature of native Unity. Okay, that'll wrap up our tour of the general export scene. So let's discuss your further steps back in the editor. Back in Unity, we can have a look at the ExPresS section at the top, which contains some tutorials, tools, and other stuff that will help you create and get started with ExPresS. We can also go back to where we started and have a look at the ExPresS wiki, which has some more useful tutorials and tips, but also the documentation of the features of ExPresS. We also have more videos linked in the description. And yeah, now you're good to go. So have fun exploring ExPresS and creating your apps with it.